Welcome to the Neo operational video series for software version 3.8. These videos are designed for targeted instruction to get you up to speed quickly and simply. This video targets queue timing. So what is queue timing? The time of the queue is the time that it takes for the queue to complete from the moment the queue is initiated. So if you have a 3-count queue, from the moment that you hit go, it'll be 3 seconds before the queue completes or before you get to the end state of the queue. Now, queue timing encompasses everything, every instruction that the queue has, whether it be levels going up, levels going down, parameter data. All of it will happen in the queue time unless that gets overridden with more complex instruction, which we'll talk about in this video. So we're going to start by doing channel 1 at full, record, in order to have a queue that we can talk about timing on. So there is a time on this queue because there's a queue time default. If we go into System Properties, if we're in basic mode, it will show up here in Show Defaults. We have a queue time and a downtime. So you can separate values going up and values going down, but they're both in a 3 count. If we are in advanced mode, it is in Show Defaults here in the basic options. Here we have queue time and downtime. Now we have a Q1 that we've recorded. We're soaking in Q1, or we're sitting in Q1. We know that by the yellow bar around the border of the queue. And we're currently selected on Q1, and we know that by the blue background. So in order to change time, there are different ways to do it. I could say Q1 time 5 enter, or I could simplify by saying Q time 6 enter. Notice it put the 1 on there for me because that's the queue I'm in. Or something that's new in 3.8, you can just do time number enter, and that will take care of changing time of the current queue. Now, as far as the time value goes, you don't have to use full seconds. We could say time 4.5 and do tenths of a second, or we could go further and say time 4.75 to do hundredths of a second. So I'm going to put time back to 3, just to sort of keep it simple. And now what we're going to do is set up another queue. I'm going to take channel 1 out and 2 on, and record so that we can talk about giving a different time for the up value as the down value, which we generally call a split time. So I can do this by, let's say I want the up time to be 2, the down time to be 4. So we know we could just do time 2, but I can also just hit time again. That'll put a slash on the command line, which gives us the differentiation between the up and the down value. So time 2/4 enter. Now in our sidebar we can see it says time up 2, down 4. I'll hit stop back, and then we'll hit go, and we can see that channel 2 coming in happens in the 2 count and 1 going out happens in the 4 count. So split times give you a more dynamic fade, and I encourage you to experiment with that because I think split times are underused, and I think they're a very valuable tool. Now, everything we've been done has been changing the time on the current queue. What if we want to change the time on a non-live queue, or one that we're not current in? The only other one we have right now is Q1, and that's fine. We do not have to be in the queue to change that. I could just type Q1 time 12 enter, and that will change the time on any non-live queue. And split times would work exactly the same. It's just applying to whatever queue number you choose. So the next thing we're going to do is change time on multiple queues. So I'm just going to hit record a couple of times just to give us a longer list of queues. And now, if I want to change time on queues 3 and 4 at the same time, I'll just say Q3 through 4 time 8 enter. So you can change time on a range of queues. Now everything we've done so far has been changing time in absolute numbers, right? We've been telling it to be time 2, down 4, time 12. But what if you just know you want it to be 2 seconds longer? So we're going to talk about adding or subtracting time from a queue. So if I want to do this on the current queue, again, I don't have to hit Q or a number, I can just hit time, and I'll just say +2, enter, and that has changed it from a time of 8 to a time of 10. Now you can do the same with minus, so I could say time -4, enter, and that changed it from a time of 10 to a time of 6. So you can think of queue time in terms of relative amount rather than absolute. Alright, next thing we're going to talk about is attribute family timing. So I've gone in and patched up 5 VL1100s. So when I went through enter to grab them, I'll go ahead and turn them on. I'll go into position. We're going to change their position information. We're going to change color, just make them all yellow. And we'll go into a gobo. We'll play with the zoom. And what else? Maybe play with focus. So, and let's just go ahead and play with framing data. So what we'll do is we'll now update Q4. We can now see the blue data letting us know something has changed, and we've got something changing in the position family, color family, the beam, which would be gobo, and edge, which would be focus, zoom, and the framing shutters. Okay, so let's say we want to change position time. So I'll just hit time, and it'll say Q4 time. I'll hit time again. That'll give us the slash to separate between up and down time. Now I'm going to hit time once again, and now it says position time. And we're going to give that a position time of 2. I'm going to hit stop back, and we're going to go and watch what happens when we run this queue. Notice on the sidebar we have a flag that says AFT for attribute family timing, and I hit go, and pan until it completes in 2, while everything else moves within the queue time of 6. So now let's look at changing some of the other attribute families timing. So if I want to change color time, I can just hit time until I get to color. I'll give it a color time of 4. And if I'm going to change beam time, I'll give that a beam time of 0. And let's give it an edge time of 12. Now I can also see all of this if I click on the actual queue number and go into attribute family timing. I can see the information here, and in fact it can be adjusted here if you want to deal with it more graphically. Now let's do a stop back and let's take a look. We can see the gobo is snapped in, and pan and tilt came in its time, and then color, and then the last thing was edge. With the combination of queue timing, down timing, the attribute family timing, you can get a much more dynamic transition on a single queue. One of the beauties of doing it in a single queue is that it's just a lighting state, even though it's getting there in a very complex manner. So if you need to change things, you should change an update, and all of your timing information stays. So I highly encourage you to experiment with split timing and attribute family timing, because I think it'll bring a lot more dynamic interest to the lighting work that you do, and I wish you luck. Thanks for watching this Neo operational video for software version 3.8. Go to the Philips Strand website at www.strandlighting.com for many more videos on Neo programming and operation.